Hello, my friends. Hello, hello, hello. Hello and welcome to When the Poets Gather, a reading of acclaimed poets. I'm your host, Brian Rohr. When I say that word acclaimed, I don't say it lightly. These are phenomenal master poets who are going to be taking the stage today. You're all in for, honestly, a real treat. We got Aaron Modlin, we got Emmett Wheatfall, we got Georgia Popoff, Christopher Luna, John Rosenwald, Ann Arbor. I mean, these are local and nationally known, recognized, and respected poets. Before I introduce them, I want to thank Lewis and Clark College for partnering with this event, as well as the support of Oregon Humanities. I also want to thank Literary Arts and all the other arts organizations that help promote tonight's event. So tonight's performance is part of the Stafford Challenge Conference. And all the poets tonight who are reading are poet teachers at that conference. Or at least some of the teachers. Kim and Naomi are going to be reading tomorrow night. I'll talk about that later. But for those who don't know, the Stafford Challenge is an international poetry project that I began in 2023, where poets from around the globe commit to writing a poem a day for a year. All of that inspired by the late, great William Stafford and his daily poetry practice, daily writing practice. This is our third year, and this year we had over 1,450 participants from all around the globe and all around the United States participate. So, it is, yeah, seriously. Like, think about how many poems that is, right? Really, honestly, a poem a day. If 1,000 of those people really wrote a poem a day, I mean, that is a lot of poems in the world. When I first began it, I wanted to offer a gift to the participants. Just something to kind of keep them going. When times are hard, when they weren't feeling inspired, or maybe the things of the world might be getting in the way of that creative practice. And this poem that I'm going to read to you now is that gift. It's called, When the World Surprises You, Don't Stop Writing. When the world surprises you, don't stop writing, even if the systems you know break. War may shatter, plans may be dashed, dreams may come true. Whatever you do, do not stop writing. Do not stop writing when they say, I love you, but. Do not stop writing when they say, I love you, and. Do not stop when they say your performance could have been or was worthy of. Keep going when you get the call you've longed for or dreaded to receive. Keep on. Keep on. Don't stop when your unpaid bill arrives with a letter. Don't stop when you're on the ground, bloodied, broken, unused, or used up. When a storm or fire comes and you are tired and going on means going on and on, don't stop writing. When your teacher dies or your friend dies, and more people you know keep dying, don't stop writing. When life is in your womb and you don't know to celebrate or cry, write. Write. When the kids are scared and you are scared and the walls around you crumble, tend as you need to tend. But don't stop writing. Keep on. When all the books have been read, all the years lived, all the tears shed. When all the words have been spoken, all the grime cleansed, the dust settled. Even then, don't stop writing. When the light dims, the echo fades, the last thought breathes, and you remember a life. Don't stop until you truly know that it is the end. Then let go and fade into the sweet night's wind. Thank you so much. You know, that could be don't stop writing, that could be don't stop dancing, don't stop painting, right? Don't stop creating, don't stop accounting if that's your thing, right? Don't stop living. Don't stop living. All right, I am going to read and introduce a wonderful poet. And the way this is going to work, by the way, is I'm going to introduce a poet, they're going to read, they're going to introduce the next poet, and on and on. So, Georgia Popoff. Ooh, I adore Georgia. She is a writer, editor, arts and education specialist, and a program coordinator for the YMCA of Central New York's Writer's Voice, where she teaches poetry and creative nonfiction. Georgia is a past poet laureate of Onondaga County, New York, and a 2024 Poet Laureate Fellow of the Academy of American Poets. She is the series editor for the University of Michigan Press under discussion book series on contemporary poets. Her most recent book is Living with Haints. Please welcome my dear friend, Georgia Popoff.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you for the honor of inviting me to be a part of this wonderful conference, and I'm grateful to the college and to all of those who came tonight. We appreciate you giving your time to us to listen to our work. We write for you. And thank you to our interpreter who makes our poems dance in the air. Okay, so I spent 10 years working in persona for a book called Psychometry. And we launched it at the end of January 2020, and there went the tour. So in the first section of this book, these were 3 sections of persona poems, and all in women's voices. It's very much a feminist book, but in the first section, the poems are written in the voices of inanimate objects from the daily life of famous women in history. All this and more, though is there more? More than love and death? Then tell me its name. Emily Dickinson. Emily's Inkwell. What sadness looms beyond the window incumbent upon my black blood streaming across the fascicles' pale skin? Each time you dip the nib deep into my reservoir, the binding dark bears testament to its steady flow. Miss Dickinson, is night your truest lover? Is he a jealous fiend causing you to scrawl furtive messages, smuggling them past a turn of his head? Stealthy couplets to admire before the candle is extinguished by a gust of cold autumn wind? I am the eunuch who stands between you and your captor, perhaps too shy to share my admiration, and for this shyness, I am the courier of your heart's cipher. Each time your risk renders poems, I bleed dark as tar. Now we're having, immigration is on our minds, and in the 1800s and early 1900s, Irish immigration was, Irish were hated and isolated and prejudiced against, and there was one woman we know as Typhoid Mary. Her real name was Mary Mallon. She came to the United States as a teenager. She made her living cooking for people, and she was an asymptomatic carrier of typhoid. So she was captured once and told she couldn't cook anymore, and then she changed her name because that's all she knew how to do, and she didn't have symptoms. So she said, I'm not sick. And when she was working for another family and several people fell ill, the authorities came and took her away and banished her to North Brother Island in the East River for the rest of her life with no trial, no parole. She lived there forever. And she was an Irish woman, and both those things made her vulnerable to being kidnapped. Mary Mallon said, I have never had typhoid in my life. Why should I be punished like a leper and compelled to live in solitary confinement with only a dog for a companion? Mary Mallon's lab coat. The children sickened first, then the maids and mothers. Simple amenities afforded her by the rich were forfeited. The morning the authorities found her the second time, she balked, raising her carving fork like a saber. They confiscated her knives. They dragged her off to an ambulance, then to that God-forsaken island, its barren little cottage with a cold stove and one severe tree. She was feisty at best, a scrapper for certain. Some declared her a bold liar, but I knew her to be a cunning survivor. As a girl, she schemed to make her talent serve her well. Instead, her body betrayed her, as did the health department and the press. Terminally exiled, at first Mary filled spare time with modest tasks, assisting the nurses. One day, she finally relented. She forsook kitchen memory for test tubes and stool samples. As if it too was infected, Mary rolled the apron that had shielded her from sputter and spite into a ball, pressed it to the back of the bureau drawer behind rows of cotton socks and her Bible. She found peace in the laboratory, preparing slides as close to cooking as she could get. Tiny thunders of typewriter keys bade her futile appeals. I have been, in fact, a peep show for everybody. The tuberculosis men would say, there she is, the kidnapped woman. Perhaps her resilience, rather than mere disease, proved the truer threat, or her brogue, or that stubborn streak, like milk gone sour. Bitterness coursed through her curdled heart, conferring her a pariah, husbandless and empty. Late at night, she paced the North Brother shoreline with the other gray ghosts, glaring across the East River, waiting for judgment. She'd no sooner walked the moon than the Bronx streets on the other side, nothing left but surrender and the howl of her skinny dog. So that was my fourth collection of poetry, Psychometry, with Tiger Bark Press in Rochester, New York. And then in December 2019, I had to euthanize my beloved black lab. And then in quarantine, the young man I was renting a room to disappeared, and I was living in my 130-year-old house with no mammals for the first time since 1986. All there was me, the house, and the Haints. And for those of you who don't know Haints, they are the sometimes malevolent, minor, mischievous spirits in a home. So most of these poems in Living with Haints came from the COVID time. Apparitions. Once the vacuum refused to suck something under the bookcase. I swiped twice more before bending down to discover an earring lost for months. I figured the recovery was the act of angels. Swooshes are frequent throughout the house. The stairs creak, small items vanish, then reappear. Butch, the notorious bruiser of a cat gone nearly a decade, greets me at the door. His ghost weights the mattress, circling my body 7 times counterclockwise before settling in, as was his nightly habit. Busying my cast iron at the stove, I would often sense a gentleman, never more than a suggestion of a body, a tingle between my shoulders, the air dense with his history, almost breath. Was it the flame crackling against the skillet, the herbs and hot oil holding him to this place? He seemed to prefer the end of the table facing the front of the house, where the leaded glass picture window reveals the street. I do not spook easily, but the kitchen visits grew unsettling. I asked him to stop sneaking up on a girl. Even the tolerant have limits. This poem I sent out lots and lots of times to journals before the book came out, and they kept sending it back, and I believed in it, and then I got to a point with the book, like the book's coming out, so I don't care. But I think it was the title that threw him off. Crush on a Dead Guy. Be a fool for love, for yourself, what you think might possibly make you happy, even for a little while, whatever the cost or consequence may be. Anthony Bourdain, 1956 to 2018. Gonad, right here in the first line. Clinical, not for shock either. Tony would like it that way. He didn't cotton to softening the blow with genteel sweetbread, just the base truth of nature, just a pluck in the throat. The sweet spot of love once deep inside me is cauterized. Someone I never knew is dead as well, handsome and driven, tortured, one might say. Familiar only with his fame, I mourn his voice, his weathered face on the screen. That's how it is sometimes, love beyond reach and all. A late show host, the one who has taken to plaid cotton shirts with no tie, cashmere sweaters in muted tones, that guy. I fall asleep to his voice most nights on the TV on a timer. Well, the other night before I woke up, he was lying in bed next to me. A moment after that, he walked to the window, unceremoniously ending our affair. So much cleaner to dream a man, much less work. Being found out the only possible humiliation. What a relief waking up. I'm not even trying to believe in trust. I've no further use for subtlety. I never knew anything about physics until I started looking at the universe through new eyes. And I had this whole theory about we're all cells that are related, and the molecules in our body and the molecules up there, and we're all just a succession of cells, bigger and smaller. And then I heard, what was his name? Alan Lightman, I think, say the same thing about the universe. And I went, I'm smarter than I thought. I thought that up all by myself. So this is kind of about that. St. Anthony and Stephen Hawking conspire to maintain order. If this is true, what else is true? Matthew Olsman. In actual fact, nothing is solid, or so I've been told. The universe is comprised of a collection of molecules in close collaboration, making space even more vast than we ever assumed. This makes me cautious when climbing on my desk to hang a portrait of St. Francis de Sales, the patron saint of writers. What if I fell through? Where would I land? Months before the Twin Towers defied the logic of solid steel, I spent a week in Tuscany wandering through vineyards and cathedrals. The day before I traveled south to Rome, my white gold toe ring was suddenly absent. I tore the bed apart, retraced my steps. Then I remembered to pray to St. Anthony. Then I recalled dangling my feet in the deep end of a pool while staring across the valley striped with olives and grapes. The tiny circle rested at the bottom near the drain. The caretaker saw it too. He trundled to his shed, returning with a long pole, a crooked nail pounded into the end. His arm elbow deep, he fished for gold to answer my prayer. Rome was crazed. Soccer is truth to Romans. Their team won the Italian Cup for the first time in 17 years. Families flooded streets flowing towards Circus Maximus, tributaries all heading to the sea. I stopped on a stone wide as a manhole cover, rounded to a blue-gray mound. How many feet did it take to wear away all those tight molecules? No one else seemed to care. My companion and I were in search of pasta, wading against the current. Up a cobblestone alley, a tiny chapel spilled forth a wedding party, the bride bright as gold, her groom beaming at his good fortune. White calla lilies lined the aisle at the ends of pews. The walls bore saints in frames of the same warm wood, a brass offering box beneath each, a slim slot just wide enough to accept a coin or folded bill. Close to the door, stoic St. Anthony drew me to a halt. I pulled cash from a spot close to my heart. Reserving enough for a meal, I pressed lira into a neat package. Tonight, the Tokyo News tells the cable world a distraught father dives beneath the waves in Fukushima, searching for a miracle, a gold ring, a shoe, any hint of his daughter swallowed by the sea. Swabbing a tombstone, he says, "Each day I wash my face and her name." He never knew how to dive before this. Grief drove him to it. Once he had a beloved, then in the space of a moment, no trace. Beneath the breakers, remnants of walls, cars, bicycles, evidence of the dead. All those molecules, the distance never to be filled. Bones, heart, skin, stardust. Each life, a single cell in the expanse, claiming no boundary, no logic, agreeing to be true. Thank you for listening. Next to read is John Rosenwald. For 34 years, John Rosenwald has taught creative writing, modern American literature, and Victorian culture at Beloit College. As a Fulbright professor, he has taught in China at numerous major universities. From 2012 to 2014, he created, with Ann Arbor, a pilot program in transdisciplinary education. Recent work involves exhibitions of Chinese peasant artists and collaborative translation of contemporary Chinese poets. From 1976 until 2016, he served on the editorial board of the Beloit Poetry Journal, eventually as co-editor, and president of the BPJ Foundation. His selected poems, Harvest, and novel, The Feast of Stephen, appeared in 2016. His translation of Rilke's The Sonnets to Orpheus, 2022, won a Maine Writers and Publishers Award for excellence in publication. Obviously, he's a slacker, right? He has frequently attended and helped organize Robert Bly's annual conference on the Great Mother and New Father, of which he was commissioned to write the history of by the University of Minnesota. In 2009, he was awarded an honorary doctorate degree by the University of Maine, Farmington. I ask you to please welcome John Rosenwald to the stage.
We've had some trouble today because I'm old and can barely hear. Can you hear this? Is that good and clear? Thank you. Let me invite my wife, Ann Arbor, up here because you've just heard that we've been part of Robert Bly's annual conference on the Great Mother and the New Father for many years. Come this side, maybe. Left hand, right hand. And we thought we'd start with the Robert Bly poem just to welcome him into the world because he was such a close friend of the folks who have made us possible today.
A poem by Robert Bly.
Winter poem.
The quivering wings of the winter ant.
Wait for lean winter to end.
I love you in slow, dim-witted ways.
I love you in slow, dim-witted ways.
Hardly speaking, one or two words only.
What caused us each to live hidden?
A wound,
The wind,
a word.
apparent.
Sometimes we wait in a helpless way.
Awkwardly, not whole and not healed.
When we hid the wound, we fell back from a human to a shelled life.
Now we feel the ant's hard chest,
The carapace.
the silent tongue.
This must be the way of the winter ant.
The winter ant, the way of those who are wounded and want to live,
To breathe
to sense another,
and to wait.
Thank you. At the Robert Bly Conference, we had this wonderful guest one year, Naomi Shihab Nye. And I think she's here tonight. And in a workshop, I was with a young woman whom I did not know and who was quite young, and I thought, oh my God, if we have to do something together, this is going to be difficult. So we talked, because my birth was very strange, and I had written a poem that was not done and not good. And Naomi said, all right, take a poem that you wrote some time ago and write it again, only don't stop one sentence, the whole thing, gone. Feast. It was wartime, and his mother couldn't get gas for the car, so she could not see him in the hospital, even though her womb still ached from his birthday, and her breasts had only begun to dry up. Her breasts, which he could not suck, not only because she could not gas, but also because he could not suck. His mouth could not do that, the doctor said, just as his lungs could not breathe when he first crept into the world backwards, and his father had to tell the nurse who had told the doctor who put him in the incubator where he could neither breathe nor suck, and he turned blue and needed to be turned every 5 minutes, but there were no nurses, they were all at the front. So her sister-in-law came and her sister's friend and the one nurse the hospital could provide, and they turned him in the incubator every 5 minutes like meat in the pan, cooking him slowly into this feast called life. Ann and I have been working in China for nearly 40 years. We ended up translating most of the major dissident Chinese poets and having an extraordinarily difficult and wonderful and complex time. We also, in 1983, bought 100 acres of land in Maine, near where Ann grew up, and a farmhouse. You can imagine how much it cost in those years. $40,000. 100 acres of land. And we rebuilt it ourselves. It had no water, it had no electricity. So a poem comes now about our relationship and also our relationship to that farm and our relationship to China. The title is technically Xing. Learning to love these old beams hewn from oak, we took this house apart to make our home, yearning to shape a doorway into some new space, learning to love each nail, each pane, each bolt, planing both door and door jamb, stroke by stroke. Learning to love this language, dot, then stroke, then two more dots, making the character they bear one yoke for mind and heart. Earning the love of friends who speak it, lines they spoke, we take to make our own, then give them back slowly, daring to learn this language, stroke by stroke. Learning to love you twice, the first time not enough, for old dreams let us down, like words, like homes which cracked or broke, like ribs of a wooden boat which could no longer float and let love drown. Turning in new directions, shaping our home, our characters, our entrance into something body holds. Some call it soul, some spirit. I do not choose to name it. Framing this boat, rowing against the current, learning again to love you, stroke by stroke. So back on the farm, and also teaching, letting go. Stewards of this land we call our own, we call our friend, a woodsman. Will he cut? He will, though each cut cuts our hearts, cuts heartwood, yet the woods regains its heart. Tall pines topple, small pines grow. So we concede as stewards, letting go. As teachers, too, we learn, as teachers loving students, loving to be loved by students, watching students learn to love and loving learn to leave. We teachers teach ourselves what teachers need to know, loving as they leave us, letting go. And it's a great honor to have one of my favorite former students, Joan Kelly, here tonight, hearing a poem that's not about her, but of course about her as well. Personal poems. Yeah, lots of poems are personal poems. You'll hear a lot of them from me, a lot of them from all of us tonight. So I want to move away from that and go to a poem which is not at all personal, though I suppose in a deeper sense it is. It's about Bertrand Russell. It's titled Bertrand Russell and Evelyn Whitehead, 1901. You may know Evelyn Whitehead's husband, Alfred North Whitehead. He and Bertrand Russell wrote Principia Mathematica, one of the most important books denying the possibility of the invalidation of logic. Logic must rule, they said. Logic is logic, logic will be logic. And then something happened. Bertrand Russell and Evelyn Whitehead, 1901. As he enters the room, he feels that for her the floor tilts and slides like a Van Gogh interior. His first thought is, get the boy out, don't let him see. But together they watch her face crease with canyons of pain. And for him the world skips off its axis. The logic her husband and he are giving themselves to, 10 years of scaffolding, can't prop it up again, ever. Taking her son's hand, he gives up his war against the ineffable, gives up the wars that have not yet rolled over his world of antimacassars and prime ministers, gives up titles and schools, gives up all but the need to take hands, to reach into the heart, to plant a bird there, to sing, to drown out the scream of that first bomb, the cries of those bottled fetuses twisting inside bellies of women at Hiroshima. Leaving the room with his new friend, he sees angels and saints dancing on heads of pins. Atheist that he is, he cannot help but join them. His feet lift, his body sways, his long neck stretches out like a heron unfurling its wings, gawky but ready to fly. From a note in my notebooks, I see that I wrote my epitaph when I was 22. I changed one line in it about 3 or 4 years ago, but it's still what's going to be on that stone if I have a stone. Epitaph. Now, as night comes, I take off my clothes and lie down beside the naked earth and ask her once to be my bride. Thrust deep inside, I lie at rest, more naked than ever, home at last. Let me end with a poem in a very different mode. I am very much part of the Stafford Challenge, but not at all part of it. Ann has been part of it since its very beginning, and it's been a wonderful experience for her, and I think for many of the other people who have been with us. I write when I can write. I'm a political activist. This is a difficult time, as we all know. Old, fat Donald. Old fat Donald bought a house. Oh me, oh my, oh. The house was white, which seemed quite right. Oh me, oh my, oh. Old fat Donald bought another house. Oh me, oh my, oh. And in that house he caught some cats. Oh me, oh my, oh. With a new cat here and an old cat there, here a cat, there a cat, everywhere a fat cat. Old fat Donald bought a house. Oh me, oh my, oh. Old fat Donald bought another house. Oh me, oh my, oh. And to that house he brought a Vance. Oh me, oh my, oh. With a Vance dance here and a Vance dance there. Take the chance, use that Vance. Don't let any bills advance. Let's create a tariff trance. Old fat Donald bought a Vance. Oh me, oh my, oh. Old fat Donald caught a court. Oh me, oh my, oh. And with that court he caught Clarence. Oh me, oh my, oh. With a jumbo jet here and a super yacht there, here a trip, there a trip, everywhere a paid trip. Old fat Donald caught a court. Oh me, oh my, oh. Old fat Donald bought that court. Oh me, oh my, oh. And to that court brought women's rights. Oh me, oh my, oh. Said, keep their rights within your sights. Oh me, oh my, oh. First we'll recreate this court, won't let any chick abort, make the list of their rights short. That is why I bought this court. Old fat Donald bought that court. Oh me, oh my, oh. Old fat Donald bought a nation. Oh me, oh my, oh. With consternation, devastation, governmental recreation, old fat Donald bought a nation. Oh me, oh my, oh. Old fat Donald bought this nation. Oh me, oh my, oh. I hope the politics which are present everywhere are not offensive, but I knew when the next reader was going to come up, I didn't feel he would be particularly upset. Christopher Luna is a true ambassador of poetry in the Pacific Northwest. He served as the inaugural Poet Laureate of Clark County, Washington from 2013 to 17. He's a graduate of the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics. He founded the anti-fascist, anti-racist, pro-science, LGBTQ+ friendly, all ages and uncensored Ghost Town Poetry Open Mic in 2004, which is still going strong to this day. His most recent book is Veracity, Lightship Press, 2022. And I did a little reading and I found some remarkable things about him. A person who can write like that has a wonderful poem for his mother, which talks about needing a break occasionally, and then we can leap back into the struggle. Praise for his teacher, Alice Notley. He paid tribute to Emma Kroll, his student. He published a book with his son. From that age to this age, here is a person who is involved so wonderfully in poetry that I welcome him to the stage. Please, Christopher Luma.
So one of the things that we did at the Kerouac School is practice breathing. So I'm gonna try to make sure that I breathe before I try to do this. It's so nice to see all of you, new friends and old. Yeah, is that better? Okay. The first poem is a collage poem, so it's borrowed material. When I publish these poems, I make sure that there is attribution, and two of the people in here, the RZA from the almighty Wu-Tang Clan, and David Pickering from here in Portland, Oregon. Questions without answers are a form of resistance, Brittany Mishra. I'm the transmitter, I'm the instrument, I'm the conduit. I spend a lot of time talking to people I don't know. People and creatures feeling really disconnected from their world. It's fucking hard living in the human body. You don't have to create this pain, don't have to make it ours. The mystics know it, not to make the mistake of misery. My voice is still a holy instrument. I can go into the darkness of my mind and come out with beautiful things. We don't get to choose. We think we know that which cannot be known, what awaits us after this life. Reincarnation a fable we tell ourselves to stave off the terror caused by terminal darkness. Who wants to believe that this is all there is? After I smashed the housefly with my palm, all proud of my ninja-like prowess and unfathomable speed, a stupid, earth-shattering thought occurred to me. What if that was Mom? It couldn't possibly be. Surely the source of all life deserves better than that. I told that thought to fuck right off. Then I read that His Holiness the Dalai Lama plans to reincarnate himself in the free world, somewhere outside of China. Even our spiritual leaders tell themselves stories to stave off the impending abyss. The Lords of Flatbush for Paul Luna. Years before I'd have the opportunity to kiss or touch any girl, I wanted to be John Travolta in Grease. The Fonz before he jumped the shark. Greasers like my dad. Young men with slick back hair, excess heaps of bravado, and cigarettes rolled up in the sleeves of their immaculate white t-shirts, hoping to appear effortlessly cool. Their confidence unattainable, like the Lords of Flatbush, their big smiles pain-free, never to be diminished nor questioned. On the waterfront, for my teacher and friend, Lisa Jarneau. I am the houseboy of the poet Theosophist and his life partner Cher. I am the inside of your eyelids bursting with chance color. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody. I am the cubist in the cupboard, the sea lyric, the scarf wound round your weeping neck. I am the sheepinator warming the unsuspecting infant's delicate head. I am the reporter in the hull of the military transport jet, replaying a memory loop of his wife's hands on either side of his face the day he departed for Iraq. I am the sun turning black, an eternal reflection of the charred child discovered beneath the rubble of the most recent hospital to be bombed. I am prophet and redeemer, the unwelcome messenger irritating the dug-in with unasked-for reminder of love. I am Jackson Pollock's wrist. I am Lee Krasner's secret roiling resentments. I am Joan Baez in a private moment, contemplating an alternate timeline in which she and Bobby made it work. I am her painting of a poetic icon caught in a burning ring of fire. I am a master of war. I am one half of a small-town power couple, the reformed poster child of Ghost Town, USA. I refuse to dwell on the inevitability of our impending demise. Like class of 2023, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer George Michael, I choose life. Two-Spirit, crushing hard on your masculinity and your femininity, wowed by your bravery and your ability to finally embody everything that you are. Your eyes and hands are soft, and your spirit is fierce, and fierceness knows no gender, no bounds. All time is interstitial, a golden hinge after Daniela Naomi Molnar. All time is interstitial, there is no other kind. Time flutters, roars, intervenes, then recedes, is not quite linear nor circular, interstitial as memory, fragmented and fractal, yet there constantly, except when we forget, forgetfulness. A kind of blessing, there being so much about which we'd prefer to have no memory at all. Other times, we long to see it elongate, kind of like orgasm, a frustratingly temporary little death that shivers and quivers on. Thanks. I tell my students that sometimes I work harder on the titles for my poems or work longer on the titles for my poems than the poems themselves. This is one I'm really proud of, so I hope you enjoy it. As soon as you began talking about yourself, your nipples got hard. Always on the precipice of doing some really dumb shit, because I was indoctrinated to find transgression to be both necessary and erotic. Please let go. Can't you feel your kindness's potential to blow up my world? You probably think this poem is about you, and you're right. Ringlet damage. Hurl those curls across my girth till they twine round my spine to take full control of my soul. Thread yourself through my head, wind that twine round the terrain of my mind. I want to be subsumed by you, embraced by you, completely and utterly replaced by you, until you are me and I am you, too. What harm could it possibly do? Voracious liberty. Inside a fiery hunger resides a desire to connect, to learn, to give, and possibly possess. I have come to understand that some experience this boundless love as a threat, unaccustomed as they are to receiving such love or convinced they're undeserving. I promise never again to hide or swallow the joy that roils and boils in me. Better to love the unwilling than to withhold from the needy. For my son, the Stoic, show me how to make my heart a stone, to escape being crushed by every unkindness, shattered by every cruelty. I yearn for your practiced equanimity, your quiet strength, your wondrous ability to stay cool. Much respect for the Stoics out there. I can't do it, but I have much respect. Here's another collage poem. It's just holding place for not knowing, Sati Mukherjee. Forgiving yourself is a hard hustle. I don't want to care about things. You can't tell me where it ends. It doesn't end. I'm the transmitter. I'm the instrument. I'm the conduit. It's fucking hard living in the human body. Objectively strange scene. Very associational, tactile. A true tactile dream. When we take the risk of living in the liminal state, the place of listening, of not knowing, then everything draws near to us, becomes kin, as though we were all inhabiting the same continuously expanding center. If you're going through a thing, could it be that it's a gift? It is a noble project to accept every submission, but might the impulse to preserve also run the risk of trying to catalog infinity, creating a cacophony that wouldn't really happen, but a boy-girl can dream? I need some water, some of that water they kindly provided for us. Thank you. I didn't smoke any weed at all, but my mouth is very dry. I think it's the dryness of the nervousness of being in front of all of you beautiful poets and other sorts of people. Thank you. I'm having fun, so I'm hoping that you're having fun too. Thank you. Thanks. Brian's having fun. That's important. Ritual attention. After Michael Price and MK. I didn't ask for this exile, 2 decades away from the pavement grass ocean that stirs my soul. Fortunately, Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings gifted me with the efficacy of mindfulness, the ever-present alertness to notice all there is to notice. Or I might not have made it through all these years away from the great state of New York. The noise and the attitude and the kindness of strangers that facilitates coexistence, the glorious chaos I call home. I miss the 5%ers, the 6, the Puerto Rican flags hanging from windows, the b-boys on the subway, and the nice old ladies handing out copies of the Watchtower to commuters making their way to the J in Richmond Hill. For one glorious moment, I was permitted to live in this city, my dream fulfilled, ready to raise my son in the same Queens neighborhood where my parents lived when they had me. Dawn, Angelo, and I were in the minority, and I loved it. Life had other plans. Poetry is music that attempts to be song. Poetry's a magic act. David Meltzer, Two-Way Mirror, a Poetry Notebook, 1977. I cannot remember a time when my troubled mind was not filled with questions. There is no end to the mysteries one might worry or wonder about, and the universe so vast. Therefore, it was a blessing to discover Walt Whitman and Allen Ginsberg that summer in my 20s after my first failure, picking up credits in the humanities to complete a BS degree. I felt just like Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate, floating aimlessly in his parents' swimming pool while commuting out to St. Joseph's, with astral weeks on the tape deck, blissful to be tortured by Amy's thigh-high stockings during our dissection of The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Leaves of Grass and Allen's collected poems blew my young mind so completely that the magic in those pages determined the course of my life. The vibrancy contained in the words and phrases of each high-energy construct in those weighty tomes pulled me by the lapels into the future to place me here at the table, babbling like a madman about minute particulars and negative capability, poems that kill, and poetry as survival. My vocation, a reliable method of divination, a path to the truth, or at least a way to summon the courage to spend eternity posing the proper questions. The work for Nikki Giovanni and all seekers and purveyors of truth and beauty. We were talking about all the things poetry can and can't do, the magic it contains, as well as the many inadequacies of our language, its ability to compress, bend, and stretch time, slow down to linger upon a moment's intricate beauty, or rush through a succession of thoughts, ideas, or events in a rapid list, each contained in the length of a line. All the things we can do to improve our lives can also improve our poetry. Pay close attention, slow down, think hard, push through fear, love more, celebrate love. Forgive those who have trespassed against you, and don't forget to forgive yourself, and love yourself too. Hold contradictions gently without any irritable grasping after fact or reason, John Keats. Feel empathy and compassion, let go of bitterness and bad ideas, encourage and celebrate the good ones, countless revelations to be uncovered, endless discoveries waiting to be born if one persists in doing the work. Thank you. Okay. Another collage poem. A beautiful revelation, Luca Guadagnino. Forgive me my reticence, my antipathy for games, so much time wasted, so much bullshit. Tomorrow is not promised, so who are you to judge my impulsive hungering? For doesn't everyone yearn to feel it all, experience all, just because, just to be able to say you did? There is nothing you can throw at me that I cannot metabolize, nothing impervious to my alchemy. I have a vast curiosity. I work and I remember, extra earnest. I have the aspiration to evolve. You're either living as an artist or not living as an artist. You're not good at it or bad at it. Pursue thriving. Thrive, man. Don't be predictable and stagnant. It's the reason we're on this planet, to do this work, to do our work, whatever that is. Life is the creative act. The great canvas is all the things you do with that life. A beautiful revelation. Open and empathy are sometimes revolutions. Wormhole tripping. This will be my last poem. That's how you become eternal, by living as if you are. It's about more than writing. It's a way of thinking. Eternity is always asking, what do you want to do with the time you have left? What would you like to accomplish if you have the time? Randy Rourke, What I Learned About Living a Poetic Life at the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics. The primary concern is, was, has been, and always will be time. Fortunate then that my passion, my vocation, requires that I traverse space and time with fearless joy, sometimes skipping from one point to another on the timeline before reaching the end of a single phrase or line of poetry. Pull on the thread, and you too may find that you gain the ability to leap from decade to decade at will. Just imagine the multitude of revelations that await us. Time is short to find an honest path to freedom, unfettered by neither guilt nor doubt. What will you do with the moments left? Can you prevent yourself from wasting them? One day at a time, one step and then pause. And for Christ's sake, try to avoid manna-fucking yourself out of existence. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our next reader. Ann Arbor grew up in Mexico, Maine. She worked in the local paper mill and attended college in Massachusetts. She has taught English to students from pre-K to graduate school, coached the Beloit College women's basketball team, and served as foreign expert in China at numerous universities. From 1976 until 2010, she served on the editorial board of the Beloit Poetry Journal. Since 1975, she has attended and helped organize Robert Bly's annual conference on the Great Mother and the New Father. For the past 2 years, she has participated in the Stafford Challenge, and her writing group connected with this project just published an anthology entitled What Rough Bark. As a photographer, she has published in national and international magazines. One-person shows include Beauty, a retrospective at the University of Maine, Farmington, scheduled in conjunction with the honorary doctorate bestowed upon her by that university in May 2009. Please welcome Ann Arbor.
It's so wonderful to be here, to see all of you, to get to know many of you, and I want to thank Brian Rohr for so much. 3 years of writing poems every day, and 3 years of meeting with my Tuesday afternoon poets. They wanted to meet every week, and this is the first book of their work of us together, and I'm so happy to have it here to share with you. The first poem I will read is Content. Content, January 31st, 2023. 1. Nearly nodding off, one eye open to the inner world, I am in a sacred space, a cave not found on any map. I am, to my surprise, on my knees, asking for guidance and energy. I want to live. 2. This month is moving on, already packed, taking with her several tons of ice and snow, of floodwaters. Can't say I'll miss the intensity, the drama, the trauma. When you come from a dark place, you believe in your bones that disaster lurks right around the corner, and unhappiness is what you deserve. 3. February will roll in tomorrow, hauling her shiny red wagon of light. One thing is certain, she delivers. Already the cactus tips sprout spring shoots while my mother of millions plant hovers over her many seedlings like Mother Goose, warming her nest of story eggs, each one cracking open, ready to be told. 4. I'm just a traveler on this chilly highway, a birdhouse hanging from a leafless branch, waiting for guests to arrive, hoping they will decide to stay. I am an old oak rocker, smooth and solid, crafted by time, the crisscross of my caned seat, woven by talented hands. I've held together all these years, polished by a combination of hard work, determination, and love. 5. I may not aspire to be these apple trees on the hills, but I can be satisfied working as one of the stones in these curved walls to keep the terraced banks secure. I don't have to claim responsibility for any beauty that blossoms around here. I leave that for the lost and the lonely. I'm content to be myself, one rock in a long wall, waiting for spring to thaw all the frozen world around me. My next poem will be starting from scratch. Starting from scratch. All 4 of my grandparents, immigrants, leaving their countries, their languages for the unknown, traveling with what they could carry, all bundled up with possibilities and an eagerness they could not put into words. Created quilts from fabric scraps, grew gardens in tiny backyards, worked odd jobs at odd hours, anything to make a living. It's All Souls Day, and I'm sitting here at the table remembering things I never knew. The bills folded and pinned in a bra, the documents they carried to prove they were persons, humans coming from a real place where real people built bridges, read newspapers, went to school, carved official stamps, and used them with red ink. Thinking now of your moments of leaving, how you said goodbye, buttoned a coat, stepped off a porch or onto a train. Perhaps it was raining, or the sun blindingly bright backlit your mother's face, so you couldn't see that look in her eyes, or your father, knowing he would never see you again, bent down to pull up his socks or retie his work-worn shoes. Maybe he said what he was thinking, or maybe he bit his tongue, knowing it was your life and you had to live it, a story he would no longer be part of. All your nerves carried you forward to an official's station, to a medical check, to papers inspected and passed on, to a place by a river in the mountains where you stopped in a factory town with a new mill rising on an island like dinosaur bones from a grave. Eventually, you found a place, got work, settled in, started a family. You created your own form of English, learning enough to get along. Your kids all made it through high school. Most of their kids graduated from college. I am one of them, resting at my kitchen table, watching my husband balance our monthly accounts. I am thinking of how far you traveled, how much you had to learn, and how you had to be adept at adapting so that I can sit here on a quiet evening thinking of you, sending love backward to soothe your tired shoulders, smooth your rough hands. Thank you for the lives you lived to give me my life here in this democracy. Granddaughter of immigrants, I am one of many who counted mail-in ballots all day yesterday. I even got to count my own. I write this poem of gratitude to you for giving me as my home the state of Maine and the United States of America, where all you dreamed of teeters on the knife edge between honest information and lies. Talk. He began to talk and talk and talk and talk, blathering like the wind howling in an empty soup pot, like a soulless shoe torn and twisting downstream after torrential spring floods. He never could stop himself, hold his tongue from sliding around his cavernous, foul mouth like a cracked marble in an overheated pan. How tiring to be only a pair of ears, a pair of breasts, a place for him to enter for his simple entertainment. To be exposed like a nun without her habit, standing in the face of an approaching army. Drill, baby, drill, he'd shout, looking time and again for one more thing to lie about, one more island to conquer, one more great big gusher. The third way. I am interested in the third way, the space between black and white and possibility multiplied by elbow grease and a series of tomorrows. Take this pencil, once a tree and an underground mineral, now where both cooperate with sharpness and the energy in my left wrist, language arrives at 3 a.m. to say, I believe. I believe in the unknown, in the not happened yet, in the eggs stored in the human bodies of girls not yet born, still warm inside their mothers' bodies, mothers who will soon give birth to someone they will love but never completely understand, to someone who carries within her eggs that might possibly be the start of someone born to enjoy life to its fullest, born to be the third thing, born perhaps to see a new way to be, a way to change enough to save the world. As many of you know, John and I have been married. This is the 50th year of our marriage, and on August 7th, we'll find a way to celebrate that. This is a poem for John, and I'd like to share it with you. When I saw him, or when I saw you. When I first saw you, my world cracked open and a darkness flooded in. The one on the backside of the moon, the one under the boughs of an ancient tree, the one that tulip bulbs nestle in until spring rains come. When I saw you, my world shifted from what I knew to what I wanted to know. Safety in your arms and the taste of you as sweet as shade in the summer heat, as snug as the lead in this pencil and the way it fits in my hand. When I saw you teaching the first time, I heard your voice, loving the language that formed the poems on your tongue. I felt the longing to connect heart to heart as art does when it stretches beyond the maker to the receiver and back again. I did not know that you would stand beside me always, always expecting more from me than I expected from myself. When I questioned your first gift, an old wooden office desk too large to fit up the stairs, you said, "You have big stories to tell, you need a big surface to write them on." When I saw you, nothing else mattered but you, the straw of my life, brittle and dry, always awaiting the next burn. But you seemed a reservoir of an endless source of necessary water. I saw the banquet of life in you, and my hunger knew no limits. When I saw you naked the first time, I drank in the form of your shoulders, the curve of your butt, the gorgeous weight of your penis hanging between strong thighs, hairy as the rest of you. My desire required every sip of wine, every crumb from the table. I wanted to move from the stable to the house. I wanted to share the master bedroom with you, and night after night I wanted to tangle the sheets. Whatever came before was before, and you were the now. When I saw you, I marveled at your intensity and the rough and tumble laughter we shared when I tried to wrestle away my fear of men, to open a space in my heart for you. And now, 50 years later, you are still the one I spend my days with, the one right next to me, the one surrounding me with constant, attentive love, the one, the only one welcome inside me. Where we're going. Outside the kitchen window, brittle leaves chase each other like spring squirrels in circles over the crusty snow. The wind intends to turn everything topsy-turvy, depositing one frozen leaf in every depressed deer print. Whatever the outside temperature may be, it's colder than that. Complaining may soothe some of us, but it won't be as useful as we hope. It's time to put on our "we're really grown up" pants and start walking. Each step matters, even if we personally never get where we're going. And the last poem I would like to read is for my other love, John, and a certain pond in the mountains of Maine that has kept me alive. And this is called At Camp. Not a camp, but think cabin, tiny little cabin, but in Maine we call it camp. At camp, we are sucking the marrow out of September, sunning ourselves in rockers after swimming, reading on the porch with our old eyes in waning afternoon light, skinny dipping late at night while listening to the loons under the endless stars. Decades have passed and still we savor apple pancakes griddled on our old green stove, still feel our red wedding canoe surge under our unified strokes, still love the glow of knotty pine by candlelight as we play cards in the evening, enduring some of our crazier neighbors who sit around bonfires wailing off-key patriotic songs while owls echo the hooting bears. Thank you. I have the privilege of introducing Emmett Wheatfall. Emmett Wheatfall lives here in Portland, Oregon, where he is a two-time nominee for Oregon Poet Laureate and is the recipient of the prestigious 2024 Oregon Poetry Association Patricia Ruth Banta Award. He is the author of numerous collections, including Contradictions from an Uncertain Silence, As Clean as a Bone, and Our Scarlet Blue Wounds. In 2020, Corban University produced a 9-part documentary titled Emmett Wheatfall, A Brief History highlighting Emmett's life and poetry. He spreads the passion and beauty of poetry wherever he goes. You are in for a real treat. Please welcome Emmett Wheatfall.
When I was young, I longed for love. Gazing the heavens, even the stars above. Fantasy was my fancy. Inspired by my dreams, they too did entrap me. They captivated me. Gave me life taught me, most often got the very best of me, always revealing what I was made of, how when I was young, I longed for love. When I was young, I longed for love, revealing where my inner thoughts, romantic soliloquies are what they taught, reciting them over and over again. I loved releasing the pale blue moon within, always revealing what I was made of. How when I was young, I longed for love like you, and like you, and hell yeah, like you. When I was young. I share that poem with you this evening because on last Saturday, my wife Karen and I were married for 46 years. And then let you know that when I was young, I longed for love, and I've experienced 46 years of love. You say, well, is she here tonight? No, because she doesn't go with me. If there's no dinner served, she ain't going. I want to begin this evening by, first and foremost, I want to thank Brian Rohr for extending to me a very gracious invitation to be a part of these illustrious poets. These are some fantastic poets, and I certainly want to say thank you very much. I feel so honored as an Oregon poet. I want to thank Ken Stafford as well. He has been a dear friend of mine. And William Stafford, of course, if I'm an Oregon poet, I would be remiss if I didn't come here and acknowledge Bill Stafford, Ken Stafford, the Stafford family. So I definitely want to say thank you. It's been a privilege to meet Naomi as well, so it's been a lot of fun. How many of you, I want you to think about this. How many of you know who James Baldwin is? You ever heard of him? We're all under arrest. Well, let me say this about James Baldwin. Poet, playwright, storyteller, one of the great debates. I remember the Buckley and Baldwin debate. It's a great progressive conservative debate. One day I was reading an article, and in the article, Baldwin was quoted in the article. And Baldwin said this: you want to write a sentence as clean as a bone. That is the goal. If you ever saw the movie Aliens, when the alien jumped down, it just jumped off the tube. So I wrote a poem about it and a book. I'd like to share that with you this evening. Can you hear me okay? Yes. All right. The poem is titled As Clean as a Bone. I have never seen a bone of mine. I have written a sentence, though. More than one sentence, to be exact. At least 2 sentences I have written. For the epigraph above, any combination of 2 sentences, I have given myself to clean them, stripping them of flesh and sinew, displacing great regard for each bone. Wherefore, be it for presence of soul. For the epigraph, I clean it, as that is the goal, Mr. Ball. Pay homage to James Baldwin, great influence on my life and my pursuit. I've got one here. This is a new poem. Brand new poem. And I want to tell you about this poem. I want to pay homage tonight to Robert Frost. Anybody here heard of Robert Frost? Let's pay homage to him. How many of you heard of his poem, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Eve? On a snowy eve. And I did not have that poem in mind at all when I wrote this poem. But after I wrote it, poem is titled Walking Through the Woods. Walking through the woods. When walking through the woods, count the trees. Ask them their name. How long have they lived there? Who amongst them is the greatest? Ask if you may seek yourself in the midst of it. Rest assured, the trees are welcoming and listening. Their branches will offer you the benefit of shade. Brian, if you are attentive, wait for the wind to stop its whining. Kim, turn off your smartphone. Dare not insult a host of trees by retrieving your laptop, notepad, neither pen nor paper. Wait for the arrival of quiet. Let the quiet address you by name, but by the sheer absence of ambient noise. Humility requires patience, emotional intelligence, and respect. Margaret, be still. For if the Creator exists, maybe, just maybe, the Creator may come walking through the woods, counting the trees, and calling them by their name. I have another poem for you. We are in the midst of celebrating Juneteenth. And I would be remiss if I didn't do a poem about being Negro. Galveston, Texas in 1865. President of the United States sends a general down to Texas to let people know in Galveston, Texas, that 2 years prior, the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed, and it was to set slaves free. Texas was a Confederate state, because I hope it's not a Confederate state now, Confederate state, and to let them know that they had to let their slaves go. And I want to share a poem with you that's not necessarily about that, but it's in that vein. Can you still hear me okay? Yes. A poem entitled, An Unremarkable Negro. An Unremarkable Negro. To the Negro, history has not been kind. If this Negro's history is his story, follow the line that precedes me. Follow that unimaginable journey from humanity to inhumanity, from dignity to indignity. And yet, from the grave Langston Hughes shouts, I too am America. From the grave James Baldwin shouts, I am not your Negro. From the grave Maya Angelou shouts, still I rise. While I, an unremarkable Negro, a Negro of continuing origin, a Negro following the line that precedes me, to whom history has not been kind. We only have 15 minutes. I want to do a short set. We have one more poet that I'm going to introduce in a moment. I want to be respectful of the time, which is ample time. I have one more poem. I want to, I love my country. We're celebrating 250 years of America. I think many of you would agree with me that America in its 250 years has been exceptional. There are things that we have done that will be in the tombs of history that were noble and kind and good. And yet when you flip the coin over, even in its 250 years, it has blemishes. It has stains. We've got to be able to accept both if we're going to really truly accept the exceptional and the blemish, both. I want to pay homage to Catherine Lee Briggs. Her seminal poem, America the Beautiful. I love my country. I dedicate this to America. Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for ever ways of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy head with brotherhood from sea to shining. Thank you. Somebody walked off with the Bible. I knew that would happen. Thank you. I should write a poem called The Disappearing Bio. The final poet of this evening's performance is Aaron Modlin. His titles include Everyone at This Party Has Two Names, and the forthcoming No Earth But This, both from Black Lawrence Press. His poetry, fiction, and nonfiction appear in the Pushcart Prize, prestigious, Prairie Schooner, Brevity, Denver Quarterly, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the Slowdown, and Poetry Unbound. He has served as the Reynolds Endowed Chair of Poetry at the University of Nebraska, teaching undergraduates in person and online for 8 years. In a few weeks, he'll also become a licensed mental health counselor, exploring how words and creativity help us. He likes talking to strangers, so watch out. Watch out. Would you kindly welcome our friend, Aaron Modlin.
Well, isn't this great? I'm really enjoying hearing everybody. We've been having such a good time. I thought we could redo something we did a little earlier if you were in my workshop, because we have a lot of new things to be grateful for. So if you would think of something you're grateful for from today, get it in your mind. Got it? Okay. Now let's shout it upward to the ceiling of this great space in gratitude and in thanks. On the count of 3, shout out the thing that you're grateful for. 1, 2, 3. Sunshine! Woo! You all, this evening. Apology to the twitchy woman who yells to herself at the bakery, and chants will start again. Apology to the twitchy woman who yells to herself at the bakery and chants to her croissants and coffee, I'm gonna eat ya, dunk ya all. The day I began to hate my second grade gym teacher, he said, "Let's play a game," and tossed us red blindfolds. Still new to knots and just learning embarrassment, we fumbled, tied them behind our heads. And I tried to cover the sudden 4-inch bald patch above my ear the doctor couldn't explain. "I'll tell you all which barnyard animal you are." And easy as a paper airplane, he glided around the circle. "Donkey," he husked into my ear. "Now, kids, crawl on the floor and make your animal's noise until you find the others like you." He blew the plastic whistle that meant he knew best, and we all quacked and neighed, and I onky-awed and onky-awed around the sticky wood floor. Maybe I was making the wrong sound. "Donkey!" I yelled. "Donkey!" But I heard only my echo against the bleachers. I fell against the padded wall, covered the bit of exposed bald patch until the teacher blew the whistle and we untied our eyes to see his witty, unspoken joke. I was the only jackass. When I saw you by the window table this morning, when you shouted "Dunk ya all" about the croissant in your hand, when I laughed at you above my coffee cup, I didn't think you'd turn around and make me face what I was doing. For a minute, I'd forgotten that the donkey's bray is a swinging, loud, and soft, metallic sound, like my deaf nephew crying in my driveway after 2 neighbor boys throw rocks at his back and his parents aren't there, and I can't sign a single word. So we've been learning how to do our volume in this space. So I appreciate folks, if I need to be louder or closer to the microphone or anything, please. Thank you for letting me know. Lots of humility here. This poem is called "The World." It may seem cocky to call this poem "The World," as if I am qualified to speak about all humanity and the complex and vulnerable home we share, but I am referring to the world theater, where we screen old or artsy films for $5, where I volunteer to ask, "Do you want your root beer in a small or large?" as I spill ice chips and kick them beneath the counter. We don't take tips, but we do have a donation jar because the world is both a nonprofit and a landmark we are trying to keep alive. We need a stronger air conditioner. Look at the ceiling and you'll see the pendant lamps that make historians cheer. Touch the oak banister and I'll wipe your prints away at night's end. At the world, we say our oily popcorn is the best popcorn in the world. Inside, the ivy carved into the original proscenium arch says, "Hey, look how long humans can preserve beauty." But in the world outside the world, someone this minute is buying a marker for a hateful poster to brandish at people. Some animal is the last of their species to fall in the grass, too rare for us to notice. It's dark even in daytime when we show a matinee. We are surrounded by strangers. The world chooses films it can afford, films about cool characters obligated to express emotions only ironically, or films about people with budding self-esteem and desires to run marathons. When the hero at last admits she can't do it by herself and enlists her best friend's help, we all applaud. When we showed the documentary about the Pope, when he said, "How wonderful it would be while we discover faraway planets to rediscover the needs of the brothers and sisters who are orbiting around us," all the non-Catholics in the room cried, audibly. I heard sniffles from 3 corners. You can do that in this world, where no one can see if you are hip or tough enough for all these days require of us. You can fan yourself with oily fingers in the increasingly warm air and, for any reason, cry as much as you want. So the Pope mentioned some astronauts there. This book is called No Earth But This, and we have a running theme of astronauts. To the astronaut who hopes life on another planet will be more bearable. As in, if the people there like everyone, even the ones they are not related to, if they like strangers and budding plants, like to hum the songs in each other's heads, like food too much to chew it and too much not to share, if they like to be alive more than to bomb or be bombed, like visitors, like thirst, like letting it last 10 extra minutes to boost the thrill of water, brush their mouths with baking soda so their next drink tastes sweet. If their games do not name winners and losers, if no one must deadbolt a door behind them in fear, if no child or adult hears, "I did not invite you to my party." If people do not exchange paper and say, "This paper is worth the unhappiness of many." If no night outlasts a day, if no one oversleeps for sadness, or if they do, someone, it's a network better than any antiquated phone tree, someone lies atop the quilt beside the sleeper and waits, matching their inhales and exhales, and no one wakes alone. So far away and so down here, we are all rooting for you, astronaut. We squint toward your ship, which must be traveling overhead. We rise from these creaky beds in our empty rooms and stretch the curtains wide. Okay, so if you were my grad students, then I would be like, why would the poet give everything away? You're supposed to figure it out yourself. But here we are. So it's called No Earth But This, and it's, so there's the physical earth, but also referring to this idea that humans are made from earth, right? So there's no earth but this particular body about which we are embarrassed. There's nothing other than who we are as humans in the individual and the collective. So I love embarrassment, by the way. Like, not when it happens, but I love putting it on the page because I feel like it's this thing where you feel so, so isolated, so alone. However, my theory is we're the only ones who do it. I don't think giraffes get embarrassed, but humans do. And so when you are embarrassed, you are connecting with everybody else who's ever been embarrassed before in this uniquely human experience. Self-portrait as someone not supposed to be here. Because of a clerical error for which the temp agency sincerely apologizes, today I'm a tour guide at Jimmy's Sistine Chapel Warehouse Replica and Gift Shop, where I try to avoid laser pointing to the biblical genitals while children and art critics ask about the pigment-to-egg ratios of contemporary fresco restoration. These people saved for weeks for a tour with an eloquent expert named Albert, and I won't tell them they got me instead. My father warned, don't trust someone who never says, I don't know. But when the critics question if I'm sure the panel overhead is titled, Then God Makes a Red Planet, I think not of my father, but of confident, informed Albert and shout, contrapposto, which is a word I remember from art appreciation class. Why is that naked man building a boat? A child asks about Noah. And I say, God wanted a redo. When I point to Samson's rippling thighs, I am embarrassed I wore shorts. How often have I wished to exchange body parts, legs, stomachs, with a passerby? One who could walk tall, surrounded by all these fearless nudes. The children are confused about God, ready to touch his index finger to atoms, assembling him from dirt. God should have used gold or rubies, a blonde boy says, but who am I to criticize? A girl asks, so Adam is our great-great-grandpa? If so, I say, our great-great-great-grandpa is Earth. The critics point at me, and I point at the ceiling, where, as usual, the divine and the human point at each other. Okay, I have to read this poem. So the Buxton Contemporary Art Gallery in Melbourne, Australia, did this project where they invited poets from Australia and other countries to look at their catalog, all of their art, and create poems in relation to it. And you got to choose anything from the catalog, from their digital catalog. And I saw this piece and I said, absolutely, this is it. And it's called Scarred for Life by Tracy Moffat. And what she did was she asked people to think of a really embarrassing story from their life, from which they are scarred for life, either in a humorous way, oh my gosh, I was scarred for life, and for other people, it's quite sincere. I'm truly scarred for life because of this. So she asked them to tell her these stories, and then she posed people in these posed photographs that look like from like Life magazine. And then the caption below is the one-sentence story of what was embarrassing. So the store clerk said, "You're not as pretty as your sister." Or he always, this is in Australia, he always had to be the sheep in the Waltzing Matilda play. Some of them are funny, some of them are quite serious. So I took I didn't take those, but I took the idea of many people's stories. Some are imagined, some are literal, real stories here in this poem. And then the poem was played overhead in the gallery. So it's not an after poem, but after I wrote it, I looked back and I said, oh, of course. This is a poem that really shows my admiration and appreciation for the poetry of Naomi, and particularly her poem, Kindness. This is called Compassion. Because compassion means suffering with, you must learn it. What you depended on must crumple like newspaper in a bonfire. You must look into the liar's smile and say, honestly, I trust you. The window will break into your hand, and authority will laugh at you without so much as covering his mouth. You must lose your grandfather's watch in the move, or you must never meet him at all. The cut must leave a mark everyone can gawk at. You must watch as the church where you finally believed burns on TV. You must sense people like you are not supposed to be in this room, and you must force yourself to stay seated, to clutch the metal chair until it cuts into your palms. You must wonder if your father actually likes you, if your parents thought they made a mistake. You have to be picked last and picked last again. You must find the first cupboard empty, the final airplane full, the funeral too early. You must have your secret stolen and passed around the jungle gym, or a veterinarian must tell you, I'm sorry. The lightning of just a statistic must strike the soft spot of your head, the spot that used to give off that indescribable baby smell. I'm speaking to that baby now, and to that adult. I'm speaking to me until I believe it. I'm speaking to the part of you that lived through the very worst day of your life and kept living the next day too. Every sorrow, no matter how impossible or small, is preparation, is a gift to the next person who will need you. Okay, so two more. I have a couple that I like to end readings with. But I want to share both of them because this one here, I feel like in response to the conversations that we've been having, a lot of us have been thinking about how do we create art in this moment, What does it mean to make art when it feels like things are dangerous? I recently heard the most amazing blessing, which was, the world now is too dangerous and too beautiful for anything but love, which I think is a sentiment that many of us are maybe carrying with us. So, 2 somewhat longer poems. You'd think by now we could spell apocalypse without looking it up. The definition, nobody bothers to read because you don't ask the dictionary, what is summer, in July? Besides, who has time? And besides, can we remember to eat our vegetables tonight with so many simultaneous crises to keep track of? In other words, you try for normal. You go for a sunny Sunday drive until you see 4 horses in a field, get anxious about the 4 horsemen. No, the kid in the back seat is not reciting pestilence, famine, war, etc. He is naming wildflowers. The word's definition, according to the internet theologians, is revelation, like the end book of the Bible, which ends, yes, with the end of the world, but maybe only the end of the Roman Empire, depending on your reading, and in any case, the word means unveiling. We're seeing the unhidden truth, they say, about human nature and empire and nature, like the cloth lifted from a painting for sale. But if this is an art auction, who is bidding on these rising temperatures? The art appreciation night class from my adolescence did not explain this. When I look at the pictures in the news, I want to tell the whole internet in all caps, well, hey, humanity, we will get through this. But instead, I close the laptop. Most of my silent moments happen because the right answers take more time than I have, and I am too embarrassed at what I might say. For example, one night, picking me up from art class, my mother asked me, her teenage son, some people say Georgia O'Keeffe's flower paintings look like lady parts. How do you feel? It felt like the end of the world in that car. We were driving to the airport for my step-grandma's funeral because that's how life works. You stay in a hotel with your snoring mother, remembering an old woman who, rather than chin up, told her gangly, fearful step-grandchild, take heart, as if hardiness and a slice of bravery were right there, waiting for you to grab like angel food cake. Like that song I thought went, come and get your love, until I decided that seemed far too easy to be the lyrics. But it turned out those are the lyrics, even on the radio after step-grandma Jean's funeral, when we rushed from the tombstone but missed the flight anyway. Do you remember how it was before airplanes, before electricity? We carried our lanterns high and saw only a few feet ahead. It was enough then to stand in a field and not know what lay on the other side. We were used to not having electronic answers in our pockets. We hadn't heard of CO2, didn't realize an ozone kept us warm at night, a wool blanket we would eventually cut a hole into. Now we're too cold except when we're too hot, which is often. Often rarities happen, often accidents, often bullets, often governments, often empires, often ineffectual bystanding, often injustices we can't spell or precisely name, often pestilence, often weather we call acts of God like someone else's fault, often repeating itself. It's a marathon no one is born ready for, and you owe no apologies if your feet are not yet calloused by it. In other words, we are sadder than we'll say. Sometimes too sad even for wildflowers. It is July, our outdoor thermometers are busy cracking while we ask the dictionary in our pockets, what is summer? It is true. Grandparents in every country are dying for reasons we never imagined. It is true. Rangers are wrapping the world's largest tree in fireproof blankets. It is true. The story buzzes in my pocket while I am frozen silent in the stairwell at the Art Institute of Chicago, looking for the first time at this Georgia O'Keeffe painting. It barely fits on the wall. It barely fit when it hung in San Francisco. They had to pull those museum doors apart to carry it in. I thought it was sheep in a field or a picture of skin, a diagram of cells below the epidermis. But no, it is sky above clouds 4. It is pink and soft blue with white rounded rectangles stacked beneath, like the gentlest brick wall holding up the air. It's a view looking down at the clouds and the clouds and the clouds, and I count 163. If you lift your chin up, the sky above them. The placard says O'Keeffe wanted to paint what awed her from her first airplane window in the 1960s. And she worked in the cold because no little indoor studio could hold the canvas of all she saw. Monet's poppies make you want to dance, but he could not paint this painting. And Cassatt could not paint this painting, nor Michelangelo, despite his fondness for the heavenly, because though this view has always existed, airplanes did not. So what did we know? What? And now all the white rectangles freeze me, plus 3 Chicagoans, in this stairwell. Well, hey, humanity, take it all in, all of this, and all those pictures from today, and even so, take heart. Come and get your love. Marathoners, get your water. Scientists, get your microscopes. We are getting out of bed this morning, damn it. And tomorrow morning, and the next morning, and the truth cannot stop us, because surely we are betting there is still beauty all around us that just hasn't yet been unveiled. This poem is in 3 parts. I have a problem with my corneas. I got LASIK surgery, and if you're thinking of getting LASIK surgery, remember my voice saying, absolutely do not do it, because it damaged my vision. And so, since we're all friends here, I'll tell you a bit inside with this poem, that parts of the poem take place on a day after I was going to many eye doctors at the time, hoping for some solutions, and I had just gotten some bad news. So that sadness is part of what's going on in the poem. Before you can comprehend particle physics, you must look at the empty styrofoam cup and know it is you. 1. Before you can understand the Higgs boson, you must want something very badly to exist. This is what the novelist from your childhood meant by hollow sound. The rain against this parked car where you sit with your sad, stupid coffee cup, lightweight because it holds only blank space. Admit it, you sit in the car because it encloses you more than the vacant kitchen or even the bathroom where your words echo back to you across tile. Your friend or father's ghost or whoever would tell you to try harder, to stop projecting your emotions onto styrofoam. But it's easy to give in day after day in this rain, or to turn to the radio as if those voices bouncing through outer space can hear you. Truth is, anytime you step outside, the radio satellites and sky are so far away, and to touch one tree, you have to distance from the others. And you can never be the tree and never be in it. Between skin and bark, a gap always lingers, even if only a microscope could see it. Just like how you and any partner can never taste the exact same air or miss the same childhood home. Even in utero, there was space between you and your mother. How could we not feel lonely with lives begun under these circumstances? All objects feel heavy, the physicists explain, but not all their particles are. Some, like photons, have no mass at all, and that lesson at least you can understand holding the empty, disposable cup like you do. But no, actually, that's impossible, other physicists argue. Of course everything has mass. If anything didn't, no theory would compute, and the theories do compute. We need them to, and sometimes they do. Math hints at stability. So where does that mass come from? This mysterious source is the infinitesimal particle, or boson, Peter Higgs predicted, even tinier than a photon. Though Higgs was an atheist and disliked the term, searchers dubbed the particle which, if found, would make everything make sense, the God particle. A particle physicist tried to explain all this to non-genius me, and I drank green tea from a thermos, feeling its heat run through organs I had never seen. 2. In 2012, in the ground beneath Switzerland, while physicists swore they were neither desperate nor superstitious, staring at a magnification screen, chewing their mouths to blood as if this were the only reason to have a mouth, a particle collider machine broke an atom into the smallest parts ever. And at long last, there it was, existing, the Higgs boson. Having seen it, the physicists wanted never to blink again. 3. The Higgs field contains innumerable Higgs bosons, but let's not get confused by the word field. It is more like water than land, an ocean we soak inside as would sea sponges. We are never not in the Higgs field. The Higgs field is never not in us. The bosons pour through us like light, so we are not styrofoam cups, but clear drinking glasses accepting rays, though bosons do not glow. I cannot understand any of this without more metaphors. On the phone, I ask the physicist if the same bosons are passing through the cup and me, and he says yes. And I say, and the rooftop? And he says yes. And I say, my neighbor's newspaper? And he says yes. And I say, what about through me and you? And he says, eventually. And I say, the geraniums on my nephew's grave on the coast? And he says yes. And I say, my high school bully? And he says yes. And I am calling the physicist on the phone again and again today from my parked car to hear him say, yes, yes. And I say, what about someone I haven't met but may love if they exist, and the parents of whichever child I may someday adopt? And he says, yes. And the carpet beneath the government's feet? And he says, yes. And I say, what about today when they are passing that horrible law? And he says, yes. And I say the clouds over India and the Great Barrier Reef growing more bleached every year, and he says yes. And the frightened people on airplanes, and he says also their seatbelts, also the people waiting for them on the ground. I say the moon, and I say the radio waves, and I say the fruit in the refugee's backpack. I say all my eye doctors. I say my third grade librarian, and he says yes. And I say the priest who started Mass with prayers I did not understand, one that began, in you we live and move and have our being. And the physicist says yes. And I say, that priest is probably dead. And the physicist says, skeletons count. And I ask if Higgs bosons run through the famous virus, and he says through all the famous viruses and through the forgotten ones, the remains of the people who died undiagnosed in empty rooms. He says the sunflowers and the cab driver who overcharges you and the bus driver who lets you ride free and the people who lived where you're sitting 400 years before. And he says until only recently we, like Peter Higgs and like the ancient Mesopotamians writing their cuneiform and holding their newborns, stood within the Higgs field and didn't know it. But the field is more like air or water. We don't stand on it. And outside the car, the cold rain is crashing again, the 13th day in a row, and all along, I and all of us have been swimming. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Aaron Modlin, Emmett Wheatfall, Ann Arbor, Thank you everyone so It's going to be at Sanctuary Hall at the First Congregational. If you don't know where Sanctuary Hall is, it is downtown, literally right across the street from the Art Museum. It's right next to Portland 5. It's that beautiful old church. It's right there. So that's Sanctuary Hall. And finally, if you loved what you heard and you want to support our poets, we're selling books right next door. So we're going to go there. We're going to please buy some books. Go next door. All their books are there. We also have both last year's and this year's Stafford Challenge Anthology there. Both have over 200 poets and poems in there. So go there. The poets are going to be there to sign books. You can go talk with them. Tell them about your favorite poems. Tell them a story. Tell them anything. They're very social people. And thank you so much, everyone. Bless you.